Orhan was the founder of the strongest S-rank party, but his friends kicked him out because his support magic is not good enough compared to others. However, Orhan was never a mage to begin with, and he decides to return to his true skill and passion for swordsmanship to become the greatest adventurer ever. Orhan aimlessly wanders through the dungeon all on his own, looking tired of his own existence when he comes across a demon rat. He takes his sword out, which he hasn't used for what seems like ages at this point. He turns his face towards the monster and slashes it down in one clean strike, realizing that he has gone a little rusty after not using the sword for so long. This catches the attention of some other rats in the dungeon, who immediately rush towards Orhan and try to attack him. These creatures are of no match against the creator of the hero's party, though as with a quick 1-2. He kills the remaining rats that came in his way. He looks at all the cores spread on the dungeon floor and thinks that he might not be as out of shape as he first thought, and maybe there is still some hope for him as a solo swordsman. Before he could turn around, though, he gets surrounded by a group of goblins who are substantially stronger than the demon rats, and Orhan knows that. He decides not to take any chances and uses his own support magic on himself, boosting his strength for a short duration, making him tankier and his sword more dangerous. With that, the goblins attack Orhan, but they were no match against the speed and skills he had after being in an S-ranked party. He slaughtered them all one after the other while thinking about how he never really tried his own support magic on himself and realizes how overpowered it makes him feel. He was about to let his guard down after killing the entire first wave, but before he could take a breather, a second wave of goblins attacked him head-on. Knowing that his support enchantment would wear off soon, he jumps headfirst and slashes through all the goblins that came in his way, even chasing one down at the end to send him down to hell. With that, his defensive enchantment wears off, and he realizes that his spell only works for 3 minutes of combat, which means that he needs to be careful about when and how he uses it. Just then, the third wave of these never-ending goblins enter the dungeon and rush towards Orhan at full speed, aiming for the kill, but Orhan manages to overpower them once again and starts killing them one by one. He soon realizes that his enchantment is about to end, so he uses the spell once again near the very end to continue his onslaught as he deals with the last few goblins of the horde. As he sees the life go out of the eyes of the last goblin, the memory of the evening still haunts him. He remembers again how Oliver entered his study alongside Anne and Derek and told him outright that they are going to kick him out of the hero's party. Orhan was left shocked as he tried to make sense of what was happening. He turned towards Oliver, asking what the hell is he talking about. They are supposed to be best friends, but Oliver stayed cold and calculated, telling him that just because he is a friend from the same village doesn't hide the fact that he is the most useless member of the team. Anne and Derek both chime in, claiming that all he is doing is slowing them down and holding them back from achieving greatness. Orhan's life flashes in front of him as he tries to make sense of the surreal situation. How can his best friend decide to kick him out of the party that he himself created? A party that became known as the Hero's Party because of how quickly they climbed through the dungeons and soon became one of the best parties in the entire country. Oliver reasons that during the last collaborative dungeon clearing mission, he observed other parties and how the enchanter of their group was so strong and capable of helping the other members, and compared to that, Orhan is utterly useless. Orhan couldn't believe his own ears as he snaps back, claiming that he is not an enchanter to begin with, and the only reason he took on the role was because no one in the party had any aptitude for magic. So he sacrificed his own position as a swordsman and started training as an enchanter, and even created his own style of magic to make up for the talent that he lacked as a support mage. Anne laughs in his face though, calling him a pathetic loser who is making excuses since Oliver was a much better swordsman than him to begin with. With that, Orhan turns towards Oliver as he was his last hope, but Oliver coldly tells him that they have even found a replacement enchanter as well, who will help them climb through the ranks and achieve greatness. Orhan finally accepts the new reality and the fact that there is no place for him in this party anymore. With one final goodbye, he turns to leave when Anne laughs, claiming that he was never supposed to be in an S-ranked party anyways, since his swordsmanship and magic are both at an A rank, which means he is a pathetic jack of all trades, but master of nothing. Finally, he snaps back to reality as he walks ahead, thinking about the new style of fighting he has developed, which merges the traditional roles of a swordsman and a mage. He decides that he will continue being a jack of all trades, but at the same time he will master them all and show them what a giant mistake Oliver and the others made. Just as he was about to leave, a group of 4 adventurers rush into the teleportation room all out of breath. Their leader asks whether they were alright since they were not expecting so many orcs all at once. One of the members speaks up, claiming that they have left the girl behind though. The leader claims that he made the right call, as if they tried to help the girl they would have all died. And anyways, the girl just joined their party today, so he obviously prioritized his older friend. The wound of his own party abandoning him was too fresh in his mind, so Orhan turns towards the men and tells them that he hates people like them. One of the guys claims that they could have done nothing to help her, and one of them tries to attack Orhan, but he gets manhandled and swiped to the floor, as Orhan tells them to shut their ugly mugs and run away. With that, he turns towards the leader and angrily asks him where the hell did he leave the girl to die, and rushes off in that direction to save her. He finds her at the end of a cave where she was completely cornered against what seemed like an army of orcs. She kept backing against the wall with tears in her eye and used her defensive shield as the orcs advanced. Her shield wasn't able to stay up for long, though as soon the orc managed to break through the shield and were about to end her life, when Orhan jumps in and used his wind magic to push them back. The girl was shocked and dazed, but Orhan didn't waste a single moment as he took out his sword and ran at the orcs. The first orc tired, pummeling him to the ground, but Orhan managed to block the attack easily, and with his own support magic as reinforcement, he slashed through the orcs as if they were made out of butter. The girl stood there confused, wondering whether Orhan is a swordsman or a mage, as he used his reinforcement magic to enhance the sharpness of his blade before rushing at the orcs, chopping through their weapons and their bodies alike. He realizes that the guys were right, as they could have never handled so many orcs at once, but he would have rather died than leave a party member behind. With that thought, he slashed through dozens of monsters all at once. While the girl watched in awe, wondering who this man is, Orhan continued his killing spree, and with the second burst of attacks, he managed to cut through every single orc in the cave, leaving only their corpses and shiny cores behind. With that, he turns towards the redhead at the end of the cave, but finds her lying on the floor as the adrenaline wears out. By the time the sun started setting, they came out of the dungeon, and the redhead introduced herself as Sophia before asking him out to dinner as a gesture of thanks for saving her life. Orhan ends up accepting and follows her down to a tavern owned by the Silver Rabbits Guild. He realizes that she is from the guild itself, as she also had a crest on her cape, and realizes that she reminded her of someone but couldn't put a finger on it. Soon that confusion disappeared when Sophia introduced him to her older sister Selma, who Orhan already knew, as she was also an S-ranked enchanter from a different party. Selma was the strongest enchanter in the country, and she was the one who came up with the system of dividing the roles into the swordsman, who attacks, the tank who absorbs damage, and the mage who provides support. Shay eyes Orhan with disgust and tells him that she is going to call the FBI since her sister is just 14. Orhan immediately tells her that his name is not on the Epstein files, so she can chill, while Sophia tells her sister that Orhan actually saved her life. Selma calms down a little after that and scolds her sister for going out on her own to a dungeon without telling her first. They soon start talking, and Orhan tells Selma that he was kicked out of the heroes' party, so he is more or less a vagabond at this point. He immediately sees Selma's eyes twinkling, and he wonders whether she is thinking of recruiting him into her party. But before that could happen, he tells Selma that he has no plans of joining any party in the near future for now. Selma tells him not to flatter himself and asks whether he is up for a job. This was surprising for Orhan, and he gets curious and asks about the job. Selma claims that a huge party from her guild is going down to the dungeons tomorrow. The party will contain loads of new adventurers, and the rank members are supposed to guard them and see that the floor bosses that appear every 10 levels are defeated and there aren't any casualties. She claims that the expedition is greenlit by a sponsor, and she would love it if Orhan agrees to accompany them as an extra adventurer. She also tells Orhan that she really respects his skills and strength, otherwise she wouldn't have asked this of him. This cuts deep within him, as the reason why he was kicked from his party in the first place was because his party members were impressed by Selma herself when she was showcasing her magic, and that's why they decided that they needed a better mage for their party as well. Orhan decides to agree, but on the condition that he will only go down to the dungeon as a swordsman, as he is no longer a mage. Selma is a little worried about that, but decides that recruiting him is more important, as most probably he will go back to his main role as a mage when things go south. After dinner, Orhan decides to visit one of the shops to get some gear, and the old man immediately greets him like an old friend. The old man had been Orhan's armor and weapon guy since the very beginning, when Orhan was no one, and with a heavy heart Orhan reveals that he won't be able to do any more advertisement for him, as he is no longer in the heroes' party. He claims that now no one would give about what weapons he uses or where he goes to get his armor, and apologizes to the old man for letting him down. The old man simply smiles and thanks him for everything that he has done till date, claiming that people will still listen to him as he is a genuinely nice person who is strong and will find a way back to the top once again. This surprisingly brings a tear to his eye as he realizes that someone is still counting on him, and he decides to give his all and rebuild himself from the ground up. The next morning, Orhan goes alongside Sophia to meet with the head of the Silver Rabbit clan, known as Vince. He welcomes Orhan to their clan building and introduces himself. Orhan replies that it is an honor for him to meet with the leader of such a powerful clan as the Silver Rabbits. Vince smiles at that, claiming that he doesn't need to be so on edge, as they are both equals. Vince claims that he is well aware of Orhan's achievements and knows that he was one of the key reasons why the Heroes Party was so successful. He reasons that they should keep the pleasantries aside and instead trying to figure out what the other person is actually thinking. They should focus their minds on the task at hand, which is this teaching expedition. Vince turns towards Selma for the explanation, and she starts by mentioning that they will be going from the first floor of the dungeon all the way down to the 51st floor in the matter of 3 measly days. She claims that they will stop their journey at the level 21 at day 1 and continue onwards on the second day till floor 36, and finally on the third day they aim to conquer the 51st floor. While explaining all this, she remembers the conversation she had yesterday with Vince when she first told him about the fact that Orhan has been kicked out of the Heroes Party. Vince immediately claimed that the Heroes Party made the biggest mistake of their lives, as without Orhan managing everything to perfection, they won't be nearly as strong as they were before. Selma agreed with the assessment, claiming that his support magic took them to a very high level, which would have been impossible for them without his help. She knows that at a raw scale, Orhan's support magic is not as strong as some of the S-ranked support mages, but he makes up for it with his casting speed, which is at least 4 times faster than even her own speed. She remembers the fight, claiming that he was using several of his own original spells as well, and more than that, his ability to understand the situation and react to it with crisp decisions is basically unmatched. With him out of the equation, the Heroes Party won't be able to retain their top position, which means that the Silver Rabbits can swoop in and seize the advantage to become the strongest party in the country. This all confused Vince a little, as he couldn't understand why would an incredibly talented enchanter agree to a joint raid in a dungeons where he has little to gain. Selma replies that most of the times the support mages are not given the fame that they deserve, and yes, she is famous, but that's just because her moves were flashy enough to catch their eyes, while the truly strong mages are left in the darkness with no renown of their own. She snaps back to reality when Orhan speaks up and asks to confirm that there are going to be 10 parties of rookies heading into the dungeons and 5 escorts, including Selma and himself. The rookies will deal with all the monsters in rotation, but if something out of the ordinary happens, the escorts will jump in to make sure that the rookies remain unhurt. He does find one thing confusing though, and asks why are there only 5 escorts? If their idea is to make sure the rookies have a safe experience, why not hire multiple A-rank parties instead of 5 separate S-rankers? Selma replies that the only reason they are not doing that is so that the rookies also experience the stress of going through a dungeon and not overestimate their abilities. Orhan doesn't really believe her explanation at all, but knows that they won't reveal their true motives to an outsider who is not affiliated to any clans. Regardless of that, Orhan decides to accept the quest as he has nothing better to do anyways. Vince seems happy about it and claims that he will be paid 2 gold pieces in advance, and 10 more at the completion of the task. This surprises him a little as he asks whether it's not too much, as that's basically a year's worth of money, but Selma replies that they value him a lot, and that's why they want to make sure he is sufficiently compensated. Orhan thanks them and promises to meet them the next morning, and hoping for the best. The next morning arrives soon, and Orhan arrives at the entrance of the dungeons, where he finds a bunch of new adventurers waiting for their journey. He soon finds Sophia and Selma ready for the adventure and compliments Selma on her outfit, which annoys Sophia, and she again reminds him that she is a minor. Orhan tells her to chill out a little, as he is not a fan of Michael Jackson either. Sophia asks where is he living right now, since earlier he used to live in the mansion owned by their party. Orhan replies that he is currently staying at the inn, but soon he will find a proper place to stay as well. With that, Orhan looks around and claims that everyone seems to have arrived and maybe they should start their expedition. Selma agrees with that and tells Sophia to join her party before leading Orhan towards the other 3 recruits in charge of making sure that the journey goes smoothly. Selma introduces Orhan to the others, claiming that he is incredibly strong and that she trusts him. The other 3 escorts immediately welcome him. While introducing themselves, the blue-haired guy named Ant claims that he is a tank, and the blondie named Burn follows suit, claiming that he is a tank as well. The final short-haired girl turns out to be a healer named Kathy. Orhan immediately realizes that he is a front-line attacker and Selma, the enchanter, which make this a very well-rounded party of escorts. But he wonders what was their plan if he refused their offer to join. He thinks that there is definitely something fishy going on, but decides to push on for now and see how the things unfold. Soon Selma collects all the Rockies in one place and introduces them to Orhan, claiming that they have gotten an incredibly strong helper for this journey, so they don't need to be scared about anything. She claims that Orhan has been to the 94th floor, which even she has yet to do, and he used to be the part of the heroes party itself, which makes him one of the strongest people in the country. This really hypes up the newbies, who immediately feel much more confident about this journey. But so much pressure starts making Orhan feel a little intimidated, since he now knows so many people are basically counting on him. With that out of the way, she tells the remaining escorts to take control of their parties, while she tells Orhan that he is going to lead the 10th party, which is the most promising one amongst them all. And she believes that with the right guidance, they can easily deal with even the middle-level dungeons. This again is a little confusing for Orhan, as he wonders why would she give the star party of the bunch to him, who is supposed to be an outsider. Regardless, he moves towards the 10th group and realizes that Sophia is in the same group. He asks whether anyone in their party is late, since he can only see 3 individuals. But a blonde boy named Logan claims that only the 3 of them belong to this party. This is a little out of the ordinary, since 3-man party is pretty rare. But the blondie replies that there are only 3 in the party, since no one can keep up with them anyways. He claims to be the leader of the party, claiming that he is an enchanter who is going to become even better than Selma herself. Orhan immediately realizes that this boy has an attitude problem and wonders whether it will come to bite him in the end. But he moves ahead to the second girl for now. The girl introduces himself as Carol, who is a tank. But Orhan notices that she doesn't seem to have any armor on. He asks whether she will put it on once inside the dungeon, but she replies that she doesn't use any shields or armors. Orhan asks whether that means that she focuses on dodging more than blocking, and Carol replies that he is correct, as she doesn't want any monsters to touch him. Dodge-type tanks are pretty rare, as they usually use their incredible speed and skills to dodge and counter-attack the monsters up close. But that requires actual combat experience that this girl definitely doesn't have. He asks whether the clan didn't warn her of that before, but the blondie replies that the clan told Carol multiple times to act like a normal tank till she gets experience, but she simply ignored them. Orhan soon realized that this might be the star party, but at the same time, this also seems to be the problem party, which the escorts didn't want to deal with. Soon after that, the expedition finally starts, and they all enter the dungeons. Carol doesn't stop talking for even a moment, and continues hounding Orhan about why he left the party, and he doesn't know how to shut her up. Their journey continues smoothly for now, thanks to Orhan setting up magical traps behind them that automatically deal with the lesser monsters, as he doesn't want to spend time on useless battles. Finally, they arrive at the 20th floor, and Orhan now has a better idea about his party. He realizes that the blondie is not all talk, and he actually has a substantial amount of skills as an enchanter, and can easily operate at the level of an A-rank party if he continues like this. But he is bad at giving directions, which is very important for an enchanter. Carol is incredibly fast, which she would need as a dodge-type defender. But there are 2 problems with her. She rushes directly at the monsters without a second thought, when her primary role should be making sure their party is defended. And the second problem is that she uses 2 tiny daggers as her main weapon, which do fit her style, but might now have enough destructive powers when it really matters. Sophia is the weakest amongst them all in terms of raw talent, but she is still above the skill level of a total rookie and doesn't have any major flaws, which makes her the most rounded person in the group. At the end of the cave, the escorts manage to defeat the level 20 floor boss, which means that they can move ahead to the 21st floor, which was their goal for the first day. After registering their ID cards as a proof for completion, they head out for the night to get some rest and continue onwards the next morning. When Orhan wakes up the next day though, he is devastated to find a newspaper, and on its front page his picture is posted for everyone to see, as the heroes party officially declare that they have kicked Orhan and have hired a new enchanter in his place. This hits him harder than he thought it would, but there is nothing he could do about it. So he moves outside to meet everyone else at the dungeon, wondering whether the rookies would behave differently after reading today's headline. On the way, however, he is stopped by a blue-haired girl who turns out to be Luna, the healer of the heroes party. He remembers how even during his last days, when everyone else was behaving coldly towards him, Luna was always smiling at him and ready to help. The day when he was kicked out, she was out on an errand, otherwise it wouldn't have been so easy for the others to push him out of the party. Luna immediately grabs Orhan's hands and begs him to come back, claiming that she will find a way to make the party understand how much they need him. She brings up their promise of clearing the Great Dungeon together, but that only pisses him off as he declares that the promise was made by the three of them, together, including Oliver, and he is the one who kicked him out of the party. With a wounded heart, he turns around and tells Luna that he is never going to come back to that party ever again and moves ahead towards the dungeon entrance. On the way, Orhan thinks about how he was banished from the heroes' party, and that's what the newspaper clearly mentioned today, which means that all the new recruits probably are confused about what to think of him anymore. Especially considering that Selma hyped him so much for being from the heroes' party, but now the truth came crashing down. He soon arrives at the dungeon entrance where he finds all the rookies waiting to go in, but the entire energy has completely changed, clearly meaning that every single person here has already seen today's newspaper. The newbies talk amongst themselves about the fact that Orhan isn't in the heroes' party anymore, while Logan thinks about how it would have been a different thing if Orhan left the party out of his own volition, but the fact that the paper clearly stated that Orhan was kicked out of the heroes' party for being too weak completely changes everything. Orhan tries to greet the rookies, but he gets a mixed bag of a response from them, realizing that he is not as welcome here as he was just yesterday, all because of some stupid newspaper headlines. Just then, Selma arrives alongside Ant, Byrne, and Kathy, and immediately apologizes to Orhan for causing a misunderstanding, since she was the one who kind of pushed the fact that he used to be in the heroes' party to put the rookies at ease. Orhan immediately tells her that this is no fault of hers and she should hold her head up as high as ever and lead the party into the dungeons while he provides support. Ant, Byrne, and Kathy chime in, claiming that it doesn't matter what the issue is between Orhan and the heroes' party. The fact remains that Orhan is one of the very few people alive in this world who have gone to the 94th floor and lived to tell the tale. This gives Orhan some relief from the constant scrutiny, and he heads towards his party where Sophia and Carol bid him good morning with all their heart, but Logan seems to be a little hesitant and doesn't know how exactly should he treat Orhan. Orhan decides to break the ice himself and asks his party whether they saw the newspaper today, and both Sophia and Carol replied that they did see the newspaper, but it's not worth reading since it's full of lies. Logan, however, doesn't subscribe to Fox News, so he is used to hearing the truth and asks Orhan whether the newspaper told the truth. Orhan replies that technically the newspaper is the truth, since he did get banished from the party on the account of him being too weak according to the other members of the party. He apologizes to them for not telling them about it from the get-go, claiming that he is not really the hero that everyone expects him to be. Sophia can't handle it anymore and replies that he is not telling the truth, claiming that he is super strong as she saw him take on a huge horde of orcs all alone and defeating them without breaking a single sweat. Orhan thanks her for believing in him and tells the rest of their party that even though he is not a party of the heroes' party anymore, he is still capable enough to easily help them reach the 51st floor, and asks them to believe in him. The girls seem to be content with that, but Logan seems disappointed as he feels like he was betrayed. They soon enter the dungeons, and this day, the recruits are supposed to go from the 21st floor till the 35th floor. But even now, he is not supposed to give them any orders or guidance and just stay back and observe, only jumping in if things start getting too out of hand. Their journey continues smoothly as Carol deals with all the monsters on the 24th floor with the help of her twin daggers and her up-close and personal fighting style, while Sophia manages to deal with the bigger monsters on level 30, surprising even Orhan, who wonders whether he underestimated Sophia a little. Soon they move on to the 31st floor, which are the middle floors, and that means that now the rookies are in unknown territory and need the advice and help of their guides who are with them. This time, Orhan takes the lead and walks ahead of his party, making sure that nothing out of the ordinary is hiding on this floor, when he suddenly feels the presence of a bunch of goblins ahead and tells his party to get ready to fight. He also realizes that a stray orc has also seemingly wandered in the same area, which might make the fight a little tricky, but since his batch of rookies are pretty good at fighting, he has no worries about losing this battle. He immediately tells Carol to attack the goblins, while he tells Sophia to deal with the orc with the help of her long-range magical spells. They both follow his instructions as Sophia immediately jumps into attack mode and starts clashing against the goblins while Sophia gets ready to take on a goblin. Orhan then turns towards Logan, telling him to use his support magic, But before he could even control his sentence, Logan already creates a bunch of magical circles and starts casting agility spells at Carol to help her get an advantage against the goblins. Logan still isn't fully convinced that a person like Orhun should be guiding him in anything, especially since he thinks Orhun's advice is so simple that anyone in his position would do the same. Suddenly things get a little more tricky, though, as the orc triggers Sophia's PTSD and she starts panicking against it, not readying herself for an attack. This could spell disaster for them all, since even Logan is busy with his magic spells focusing on Carol. He helplessly looks at Orhun, wondering what kind of a guide is he, and why isn't he helping Sophia when he suddenly spots Orhun creating a magical sign, which decreases the speed of the orc by a lot. He then moves towards Sophia and tells her to take her time and aim true, as she is much stronger than an orc and shouldn't be afraid of it. Sophia takes a deep breath and then produces a huge fireball which completely destroys the orc into smithereens, surprising everyone in her party including Orhun, who had absolutely no idea that Sophia can use advanced level magic spells. Carol immediately runs back to Sophia and hugs her, while Orhun praises her for an excellent shot. Soon they reach the 35th floor as well, where they end up running into a death tarantula. Logan immediately loses his cool, thinking that they are dead since there is no way they can deal with that thing. But both Sophia and Carol have complete trust in Orhun and stand by waiting for his orders. Orhun immediately tells Logan to use agility up and strength up for Carol while using magic up on Sophia. Logan wonders whether this guy has gone insane, as he is using the same strategy as before with no change, but he decides to follow the orders and uses the spells accordingly. Orhun then tells Carol to engage the monster in close quarters combat and make sure to keep its attention on herself. Carol nods in agreement and immediately runs ahead at the tarantula. Logan tries to stop her, but Orhun stops him, claiming that if he goes up in front, they all will be at a huge disadvantage, so they should wait and watch. Orhun then tells Sophia to jump on the monster and slash its back to shred, and Sophia immediately understands the assignment, jumping on top of its head and running her blade on it from front to back. Orhun then tells her to keep its attention to her, but she has to be careful as the spider is venomous, so she must dodge all the attacks without fail. The spider starts trying to stab Carol with its pointy legs, but she keeps dodging the attacks one after the other and even deflecting some of the attacks back, surprising the monster. Orhun tells Logan that he needs to continue his spells on Carol, as her life is in his hands at this point. With that, he turns towards Sophia and asks her to pin the monster down. Sophia immediately understands the assignment and uses her arrow cutter ability to slash its legs down, forcing it to fall on the ground. Carol starts celebrating, but Orhun tells her to be careful as the battle is not over yet. The advice came out too late, though, as the spider monster wasn't dead yet and uses its webs to grab Carol and starts pulling her towards itself. Orhun immediately tells Logan to give Carol a strength up and speed up, which he does in without further arguments, but Carol starts panicking and fails to free herself from the web, begging Orhun for help. Orhun tells Sophia to ready her rock arrow and uses a sharpness enhanced spell on her knives, which gives her the boost she needed to break free from the grasp of this monster. Sophia immediately follows it up by her rock arrow spell, which completely nukes the monster, killing it immediately. With that, their expedition for the day rolls down to an end, and Orhun praises Logan for his use of his support spells, as without those, his party wouldn't have been able to win today's battles. By the time they exit the caves, the sun starts setting and Selma congratulates all the rookies on their achievements till date, claiming that they have all done a terrific job till now and the last step of their journey will happen tomorrow, so they need to rest and eat properly. With that, they all depart their own ways when Orhun is stopped by Ant and Byrne, who call him out for a lunch, and after thinking for a while, Orhun accepts the offer, as it's not every day someone offers to treat him. On their way back to the city, Logan asks Sophia about the encounter she had where Orhun first saved her life and asks about the specifics, like what kind of spells was he using. Sophia tries to remember and replies that he used a wind blast first and then also used some magic to enhance his sword before slicing each and every orc into shreds. Logan realizes that something is very different about Orhun, since today he noticed that Orhun very casually used a spell to reduce the agility of the orc, which was moving towards Sophia. These kind of magic spells are known as debuffs, and are incredibly hard to do. Even the most incredibly talented mages like Selma herself can barely use a single debuff in a couple of days, that too with a bunch of prep. Moreover, Orhun acted like a perfect spellcaster, and knew when to use what aspect of a spell in a team fight. He knew when the exact timings of each enhancements would wear off, and even used preemptive spells to predict the movements of the enemy. This makes Logan realize that he got Orhun completely wrong, and he is not just a normal mage, but an actual genius. Back in the city, Orhun gets down at a tavern with Burn and Ant, and they tell him to order anything he wants as it will be on them. They then start asking him about his actual role, as he used to be an enchanter in the heroes party, but now he claims to be swordsman. Orhun replies that he was always a swordsman, ever since he saw his grandfather slay a huge beast that once wandered into the village. He got it stuck in his mind that no matter what he will become a swordsman, and that wish came true for a while, as he was a swordsman in the heroes party. But then as they started moving to the lower levels, their pace started to slow down a little as the intensity and strength of the monsters they were encountering was increasing. At the same time, Selma popularized the team strategy where everyone depended on the enchanter for decisions, so they themselves decided to follow the same strategy. Unfortunately, since their entire party had no person with the affinity to become an enchanter, their best choice was Orhun, and for the sake of the party, he decided to let go his podium as a swordsman and became an enchanter. He starts thinking bitterly that how the heroes party has zero chances of clearing the next levels anymore, but decides that it's not worth it to think about all that anymore. He then tells the boys that he now wants to become the most well-rounded swordsman who can deal with even the lower level floors on his own without the need of any party, not knowing that the very next day, the heroes party was going to pay him a visit in the very dungeons he aimed to conquer. But that's where this video ends. Remember to like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.